The movie begins with a narration revealing to us that the U.S. government conducted 331 atmospheric nuclear tests between 1945 and 1962 in the New Mexico desert, and the U.S. government still denies the genetic effects caused by the radioactive fallout. This radioactive fallout caused severely and acted upon the genetic system of humans, causing their bodies to get mutated. Apart from this, newborn human infants are taking birth with deformed and mutated body parts. In the next scene, two scientists are seen in New Mexico desert wearing hazmat suit for their protection from the virus and looking for radioactive elements under the ground. That's when a wounded man falls before them asking for some help. Moreover, we see that someone has started offing them brutally. Meaning, someone is also there in the New Mexican desert who is not similar to humans. One of the scientists' efforts to save his life by getting away from there, but he is also pulled down and dragged in by a car and taken away. Scene shifts and video footages are shown to us describing how the U.S. government conducted nuclear tests which caused destruction on Earth and brought about fatal genetic changes in humans, causing their babies to take birth with disfigured faces and other body parts. Now, a gas station is shown to us in this barren Mexican desert. There lives a man here who has just got up after hearing some noise outside. He goes outside taking a gun in his hand and says, "Ruby, is that you?" The gas station attendant calls down Ruby to show up. Upon finding no one, the gas station attendant returns and finds a bag placed at his threshold. Seeing the bag, the attendant gets furious and says, "I told you, it's over." Meaning he already knows that someone also lives there and tells them that he will not help them anymore. He gets into his house and drags the bag inside. He searches the bag and finds invaluable things inside the bag. He finds an amputated human body parts in a box. Just then, a traveling family arrives at the gas station to get their wagon fueled with gasoline. This family consists of Bob, the head of the family, Ethel, who is Bob's wife, and Bobby and Branda, who are Bob's young children. Hearing the noise, the gas station attendant comes outside. Inside the traveling wagon, Doug, the son-in-law of Bob, is fixing the air conditioner with his wife named Lynn standing nearby. All of them are on an excursion trip on the occasion of 25th anniversary of Bob and Ethel. Doug and Lynn have a little daughter. When Bob was getting his wagon filled with gasoline, someone is seen stealing a red coat from his vanity car. Bobby sees some creepy things while making water in the makeshift urinal, but he turns a blind eye to it and gets out. While leaving the gas station, the attendant shows up again and suggests to Bob that if he takes a left turn at the dirt road couple miles from there, it will lead them through the hills, probably save him a couple of hours. Bob and Ethel thank the attendant for his help and leave off with their trailer. Branda does not like the idea given by the gas attendant, as it seemed to be worthless and tiring. While passing through the desert, all of a sudden, some spikes come into existence, causing the trailer to lose its balance and crash into a boulder. Both the German Shepherd dogs, named Beauty and Beast, respectively, escape from the trailer in course of the accident. The good thing is that none of the family members is injured. Bobby goes after his dogs to fetch them safely. Now all of them are stuck in the middle of the desert with 200 degrees Celsius temperature outside. Bob considers that the tire got punctured due to the scorching heat outside. The frame of the car is completely twisted. Bob suggests to go on the other side of the hill to bring some help. There is no sign of life throughout the desert. Bobby brings his dogs back safe and sound. Both Bob and Doug begin to go on their separate ways to get some help. From a good distance, someone is seen keeping an eye on Bob's family with his binoculars. Now, in the absence of Bob and Doug, Bobby has the responsibility to look after his family. Branda unknowingly opens the door of the trailer, causing the German Shepherd dogs to flee from there. This pisses off Bobby, as he loves his dogs very much. Beauty, the female dog, goes up hills, and Bobby is seen chasing her. The dog is lost somewhere among the giant rocks, and Bobby is calling her to get back. After a while, Bobby hears his dog whining bitterly. He tries to track down the painful cry of his dog. We see that someone is secretly looking at him from the hill above. Bobby follows the streak of the spilt blood of his dog and finds his dog avulsed. This scene makes Bobby cry. Bobby runs off in fear and falls off a cliff, causing him to become unconscious. A mutated girl named Ruby approaches and checks on him. From a cliff above, a mutated cannibal named Goggle is sitting and chewing a human bone. He scares Ruby away and giggles. On the way to look for some help, Doug sees a huge crater-like structure before his eyes. There were many abandoned cars and other vehicles there. Seeing this scene, Doug is at his wit's end. He goes near the vehicles and looks into them carefully and thinks, who can abandon his car like that? On the other hand, Bob has reached the same gas station where he had his car filled with gasoline. He calls out the gas attendant, but he was nowhere inside his house. Therefore, Bob begins to look for him and reaches his room where he finds newspaper cuttings stuck on the wall, having the reports of lost people in the Mexican desert. Seeing this, Bob figures out everything in no time. Bob comes to know through newspaper that there used to live miners in the Mexican desert who refused to abandon their lands despite military intervention. The miners hid themselves in mines, and the military razed the miners' town to the ground just to conduct their further nuclear tests. Bob understands that he has been misguided by the gas attendant. Bob comes out of the house holding a gun in his hand to protect himself. He starts his car to get away, but he hears the attendant's voice coming from the makeshift urinal. Bob heads towards the urinal and finds the attendant intoxicated inside. The attendant says he did his best, and saying this, the attendant shoots himself. Bob rushes to his car and gets on it and discovers a mutated man inside his car who begins to thrash Bob until he goes unconscious and takes him into the mine. In the next scene, Branda goes to search her brother who had gone in search of his dog. Bobby is still lying senselessly and Ruby is still sitting nearby him, but then she hears Branda calling Bobby, so she moves away from there. Branda takes Bobby to the trailer and his mother Ethel treats his wounds. Just then, something bumps into the trailer outside, causing the trailer to shake. Bobby runs outside and asks Branda, Lynn, and his mother to stay inside the trailer. He inspects the place around the trailer by taking a gun. He sees that his remaining dog is no longer there. Just then, Doug arrives there. Bobby knows very well that something is wrong with the place, but he has not told anything about it to his family. Doug tells his wife that there is no road after 5 miles. The gas station attendant has misguided us, and there is no shortcut here, but a limitless desert. Here the other dog reaches his friend, which is lying dead. Bobby is anxious about his father, as Bob has not returned so far. Doug consoles him and says, if Bob is not back by midnight, we will both go looking for him. Inside the trailer, everyone has slept, but Bobby is still sitting as if he had been on the vigilance. After a while, he hears his dog barking. Therefore, he goes outside the trailer. Meanwhile, a mutated cannibal enters the trailer and looks at Brenda with lust. Bobby rushes to Doug and tells something is going on around there. There are people or something living in those hills, but Lynn does not believe Bobby and says, we are in the middle of this desert and no one lives in those hills. Then, Bobby reveals to her that Beauty, the German Shepherd dog, is dead, and he found her body dismembered among the hills. I didn't want to tell you this because I didn't want to scare anyone. Moreover, Dad has not returned yet. We are not alone here. Doug gets off the car and goes to look for Bob. Just then, there happens an explosion far away, causing Bob to burn alive. Everyone runs to burning Bob to save him and leaves the trailer unattended. Another cannibal named Lizard has arrived there from above. Bob is burning alive and no one could do anything to save him but cry. Inside the trailer, Lizard drives away Pluto and approaches Brenda to do something wrong to her. Brenda cries for help, but there was no one around to protect her. Both the mutated cannibals were wreaking havoc inside the trailer. Lynn reaches there and finds Lizard with her little daughter. Ethel also gets inside the trailer and finds both of the cannibals doing wrong things to her daughters. She tries to attack them, but Lizard shoots her in the abdomen. Upon hearing shooting inside the trailer, both Doug and Bobby rush towards it. Lizard was about to shoot Brenda. Right then Lynn stabbed him in the thigh, but this didn't work out. Lizard shoots Lynn in the head and takes Branda out of the trailer and forces her to look at him. Lizard tells Branda that he will come back for her soon. Saying this, Both the cannibals make off from there by kidnapping the little daughter of Lynn. Doug goes inside the trailer and finds his wife dead. Here, he notices that the cannibals have kidnapped his little daughter too. From far, Goggle is keeping an eye on the trailer. Just then he feels something around him. It is no other than the left German Shepherd dog of Bobby, which brutally kills the mutated cannibals. Inside the trailer, everyone is petrified, and Ethel is nearing her death. The grief-stricken people feel someone's presence outside the trailer. Therefore, Doug gets off and finds a radio over which another cannibal was communicating with other cannibals to kill Doug's family. Just then, their last dog returns, and his arrival makes the duo happy. Doug asks the cannibal on the radio why they are doing so to them. The dreadful night passes, and it's morning. Doug, holding a baseball bat in his hand and taking his dog with him, heads towards the hideout of the cannibals. He enters the mine with his dog, which is guiding him to track down the deformed creatures. The dog takes him out of the mine and leads him to a colony of the cannibals. There, Doug and his dog reach the colony of cannibals. Here, he finds an active generator, meaning someone or the other is inside the house, and Doug also sees his daughter crying on the bed inside the house. He runs to get into the house, but a mutated man shows up there, causing Doug to stop for a while. The cannibal also suspects someone to be around him. Hence, he looks for the intruder, but finds no one and goes away. Doug sneaks into the house and keeps his baseball bat ready for action. There he finds the leader of the mutated cannibal, watching the TV there. He secretly picks up his daughter and moves to main door, but soon gets assaulted by the cannibal. Here, Branda and Bobby are seen putting the corpses of Lynn and Ethel into the car to lure cannibals. Doug gets back to senses and finds himself locked inside a big box. After so many efforts, Doug finally sets himself free and comes out of it. Doug enters a room and hears a paralyzed cannibal singing. He goes near him and asks where his daughter is. The disabled cannibal replied, "I don't know where your daughter is because I never get out of this room." The mutated man revealed to Doug that humans asked his people to leave their town, and soon afterwards, they destroyed our homes. We hid ourselves in mines, but you set off your bombs and turned everything to ashes. You made us what we are now. Just then, another mutated man named Pluto bursts into the room and assaults Doug, who begins to run off here and there to save his life. He goes into a room and begins to wait for him. Pluto breaks open the door and grabs Doug by his neck and throws him away. Thereafter, he attacks him with his axe to cleave him from the middle. However, Doug manages to stab him in the abdomen with his baseball bat, but it was not sufficient to kill him. Pluto knocks Doug down and puts him through the door. In this fierce battle, Doug succeeds in killing Pluto by stabbing him in the head with an iron rod. Upon hearing the pandemonium inside the house, another cannibal rushes to the house to help his cannibal friend, but is ambushed by Doug. Doug slaughters him with an axe. Inside the house, the paralyzed mutated man orders his man to kill the baby of Doug. In a short while, the remaining German Shepherd dog reaches there and puts the mutated man to death. Goggle goes to kill the baby as per the order he received from his master, but baby is not there because Ruby has made off with the baby, as she wants to save its life. On the other side, another cannibal is after Bobby and Branda. Both the siblings succeed in killing the cannibal by trapping him in an explosion. There, Doug catches Ruby and asks her to return his daughter. Just then, Goggle gets there and begins to charge at Doug and beats him to faint. Meanwhile, Ruby runs away from there with the baby. Goggle chases her, but in the meantime, Doug gets up and counterattacks Goggle. Doug shoots him 3 times, causing him fall off the hill. Ruby hands over the little baby to Doug. Goggle is still not dead and moves forward to stab Doug, but Ruby sees all this. She rushes towards Goggle and falls off the hill, taking Goggle with her, meaning she has sacrificed her life to save Doug and his daughter. Branda and Bobby look at the debris caused by the explosion. They see Doug holding his daughter in his lap and the dog returning. All the surviving people embrace each other. However, someone is still watching over them from a good distance, and with this horrific scene, the movie comes to an end.